In this video, we're going to talk about materials in Blender, and we already saw a little bit about materials and the node editor in the previous videos, but in this video we're going to concentrate on the creation of materials and also how we can get libraries with ready-made materials for us. So in the picture here that you see, I'm using HDRI. In the previous video we saw how we can set up the HDRI and set up the shadows and the shadow catcher in order to be really realistic photo montage. And in this video we're also gonna see some extra features here using HDRI. In particular, I want to show you how you can also get rid of the background, and this was the previous lesson right here with another scenario. And there you go, this is the actual Blender file right now, and this is how we can generate also a green screen. So still using the HDRI for the reflections and the illumination, but as you can see the background is completely green, but we can set this to any color that we want or any image, and still gonna keep the nice lighting coming from the HDRI and the environment map and the sun and everything else. So we're gonna see materials, but we also going to see some other tools here that can be helpful when working with materials. For example, setting the correct lighting and HDRI, and also using like a really handy tool which is called the render region. Now, when you work with materials, you probably don't want to render the whole scene every time, but perhaps you want to concentrate on one particular part of your scene in order to concentrate the power of your rendering engine here in a particular spot, so you don't have to re-render everything every time. So render region is going to be really helpful here working with materials as well. Now, if you want to get the exact models that I'm using, you can get to Sketchfab, and this one here is a yacht made by this author right here. So you can follow, you can donate, you can download the 3D model, and this is CC attribution, so give credit to the author. And also I'm using this one here, which is kind of an old ship, and this is from this author right here. And again, click download 3D model. Now these two models will be in GLTF format, which is the one that's gonna work better. So use that format when you download these two models that you see there in the background. And this motorcycle, I've used this also in the previous video, so if you want to see where it's how it's called and what is the author, just check the previous video. Now these others here are just simple Blender monkey heads. So to get those, just go to Add, Mesh, and create monkey head. Now you can see here that the results looks like a really complex scene, but if we see it in a wireframe fashion, so if I switch here to wireframe, you can see that actually it's a pretty simple scene with nothing else but a plane to create the shadow catcher. Again, check the previous video, and this 1, 2, and 3 subjects basically. So the monkey head has been copied many times, and this is the one actually that I'm going to use to test the material. So I'm gonna get rid of all the copies. I'm gonna leave just the first one. Now I'm using 4 views because this is better when I need to move objects. I will be more precise, and also because I want to leave this one here, which is the one that I'm gonna work with, as empty as I can and without lights and other like the transform tools or the navigation tools. I want to keep this real clean like this. So I want to switch also into the material preview so that I can see the HDRI there in the background. And another tip, it's the sun. So you can see here that I have positioned the sun in order to match the background, so the HDRI image on the background. And this is going to give me nice shadows when I do the render. So it's going to be a little bit better to improve the lightning a little bit, because materials, they actually react to light. So you already know that HDRI, it's pretty good in terms of reflections and also generic and environmental lighting. But when we need a direct light source, it's better to have something like the sun or a point light to increase that materials effect. So I used here the sun position that we saw in the previous video. We saw the sun and the sky and how to activate them from the add-on panel. And once they are activated, you can see here that I can move precisely my sun in terms of elevation and rotation, so I can make it to match precisely the sun in the image in the background. And you can see also I placed this extra standard light that we have in Blender, and this will be helpful to test a little bit the materials. So we can switch now to the render mode, but I'm not gonna use cycles all the time because it's pretty heavy. So I'm gonna keep EV and then turn into cycles when it's needed. But always remember that cycles is gonna give you the most defined and exact render looking. So EV again is an approximation. It's better than the standard shaded material preview, but it's always gonna be the cycles the best one. So EV is good for real-time previews and to set up the scene. Now I'm gonna get rid of those objects in the view. I want to keep it clean, and I'm just gonna spend a few words here for the monkey head that I have inserted. Now, first of all, when you insert the monkey head from Blender, you should go into modifier and add some subdivisions, so it's gonna look better. Also, you can right-click and shade smooth, so it's gonna look really nice and a smooth surface. Now, another thing that I've done here, the material that I'm using, this is called subsurface scattering material or effect. And this is one of the first effects that you can get from the materials. So I'm just gonna get there, but you can see this like a skin effect. You can get it if you set up these values right here, but you can experiment yourself. So let's create another monkey head, and well, actually I already have one, so I'm just gonna duplicate it. So I'm gonna press Shift-D and place another one just next to it. Okay, you can see that when you copy an object, it's gonna inherit the material. So if you want to get rid of the old material, you can select that model, go here in this panel at the top in the material tab, and just press minus. That's gonna get rid of that shader right there. So this is gonna be like an empty slot right now. And this is actually the standard situation. When you create a new object, it's always gonna be like this. So you just need to click on new, and this is gonna create a new panel for the material. And the first slot that you will find will be the preview. So you can change the objects here to have different previews depending on what you need to do with your materials. And then you scroll down just a little bit. You can use nodes. We're gonna use nodes in another video. Right now we're gonna concentrate on the basic channels. So the next thing that you see here is just a list of different channels, and the material is gonna be the result of the different settings that you do here for each single channel. Now there is a channel for everything, and we're gonna go through the most important ones. So we already know the base color. This is pretty self-explanatory. And then we have right away the subsurface. So subsurface is basically a translucent effect. So when the light is gonna hit the surface and not bounce back or in the exterior of the object, but it's gonna get through and stay inside and be scattered beneath the surface of the object. This is why it's called subsurface scattering. And here you can also set up the subsurface scattering with different parameters and the radius of that scattering that is gonna appear inside. And here you can also set a subsurface color. And again, this is how I experimented a little bit to create the skin. Now I quickly switch into cycles render engine because this is gonna show me a more precise result for the render. You can see here that the subsurface scattering in particular is gonna look way more accurate when you use cycles. You can see the light coming through there and staying inside right there. And again, you can see the skin effect that I have set up. Now, this motorcycle is not supposed to be there, but this will happen every time you're gonna change the scene. So basically, what I can do here, just hide the plane and try to, you can see here, try to set it right for this photo montage. Okay, so also depends on how you set up everything. You always need to check where your objects will be. So I'm gonna place those again into the water there. Okay, so let me show you other really important tips and tricks. So let's go into the add-on. So I'm gonna go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and just type here Materials. And you have these two really interesting and really helpful add-ons. The first one is going to be a material library that you can use. If you don't want to go through all those parameters there and you don't care, you just want to get ready-made materials, you can get it from here. So check that on. And also these extra material utilities could be really helpful. Now I'm going to close, well, just activate those, close everything, and I'm going to create another monkey head. So I'm gonna use this view